Hey tech heads, Fina here. I'm back, and after having driven my Renault Megane E-Tech for over 4,000 kilometers, I have some new impressions, new suggestions for improvements, and new things that I love. So come with me and let's take a look at what those are. Okay, now I want to just point out a few things from the outside. We're going to make this quick because it's like minus 10 degrees Celsius and I'm kind of freezing. So let's take a look. So I was telling you about the camera. You can see this little almost pathetic looking windshield wiper here. But if you're using that rear view camera, it is just enough because the camera is located right behind here. So you can see it perfectly clears it out. And you don't really need the clear, back windshield if you're using that camera. So that is awesome. It works really well. A couple things on the back that I'm not super crazy about. So at the moment you see this back windshield is, it's a little grimy. It's been rainy, it's been snowy, so it gets dirty pretty quick. Now I did have my car washed just like a few days ago before it got all nasty out again. The way that this spoiler is set up, actually like this little space under here, it does not get washed in the car wash. That's kind of a small detail, but it's, you have this brand new washed car. It's all shiny, all clean, except for those two little spots. That's kind of a weird little thing. Another thing that I'm also not super crazy about once the car starts getting dirty, this is the button that we use to get into the trunk. And when that's dirty, it's clean right now, but it was before I got that car wash. It was quite dirty, so you'll have to touch that dirty, grimy button every time. I don't think that's the ideal solution here. I do think, either you should be able to open it just using your remote control from your keys, which you cannot do, or you could like slide your hand under and open it in regular cars. But speaking of the trunk, let's talk about one more thing I do like, and that is the trunk depth. So come take a look in here. I have some stuff in here right now, but this trunk is actually really spacious. One experience that I particularly appreciated was I was coming back into the country the other day, well, a couple weeks ago now, doesn't matter. And I had two big suitcases and one smaller carry-on. And I was able to fit all of that in there. And I think I took a picture of it, so I'll try to put that in just for visualization. But it's really deep. It's quite, goes quite down low. So that's awesome. I really love that I can fit a lot back here. All right. Okay, one thing I also wanted to bring up are the door handles. So you see here, I have the key in my pocket right now. The car unlocks, when I approach, and the door handle slides out. That's pretty easy, pretty intuitive. Now, if I go ahead and lock it, this door handle slides in. And if I'm already in the car, say I'm picking up my friend for lunch or something, and I drive up to pick them up, the door handle will be in. And now they're like, okay, how do I get in here? So you have to slide it in and pull it out manually. And that is not the most intuitive solution, I would say. I've definitely had a few people be like, how do I get in your car? So if they're not experienced, they have to do that. Also, this thing here has confused a couple people. They're like, oh my gosh, how do I get in the car? It's just up here. It is a little bit hidden. So those are like minor details. Once you have the car for a while and you're picking up somebody that's been in it before, it's not a big deal. For first timers, sometimes it is a little bit confusing. All right, another thing that before I got the car, I obviously watched some reviews, and there were some reviewers that complained about the space in the back. And I haven't had any issues with that if I drive people around. Now, obviously, I am not super huge. I'm pretty average. I'm 173 centimeters or about 5'8". So again, I'm pretty average sized European woman. But I've definitely had some taller people back here. I've had some 6-footers or 6'2", 6'3" even. Maybe even taller. I don't know all of their heights by heart. But I have one friend who is extremely tall, and he has sat back here. And, I can't have the seat all the way back, obviously, but it's pretty comfortable. Like, as you can see, I still have some space above my head, and I'm literally sitting straight up right now. So if I were to lean back a little bit, there's quite a bit of space above me, quite a bit of leg room. So I haven't had any issue with the space in the back. Okay, one thing I am definitely loving is the driving feel. So, as some of you may know, my first electric car rather, that I drove was the Volkswagen e-Golf. And that car gave me this amazing feeling of just being really in charge of the wheel, being really like stuck on the road, and the car doing exactly what I wanted to do. Then I went to the Citroën EC4, which did not give me that feeling in that car. I actually felt sometimes quite unsure, especially when turning, when getting into turns or when being on a windy road. So this is one thing I love about the Renault Megane E-Tech. Having driven it over 4,000 kilometers, it really gives me that very sure feeling, even when I'm going quite fast on windy roads. I just feel like this car is listening to me. I feel like I'm really on the road. When I make a turn, I know that it's going to follow exactly where I want to go. And that is one thing that I so love. Just that feeling of assurance, that feeling of like confidence. I am no longer like wondering like, ooh, if I turn it too much or too little, am I gonna like get off the road or crash into the car coming opposite me? I no longer have that feeling. So that's one thing I super love about this car. I really love the rear view mirror. So the way that I have it set up now, it's like a normal, pretty regular rear view mirror, but actually there's a cool trick. If I just flip it up a little bit, it's actually a rear view camera, which is located behind the windshield wiper, which means that it doesn't get dirty, so I always see clearly out of it. And I have to say, I use that all the time. I never use just the regular rearview mirror anymore. I've gotten so used to the camera. It's so good, and I love it. I really love the infotainment in the Renault Megane E-Tech. It is very fast, it's intuitive, it's very clear. It's kind of like just being on your phone. Everything that you try to find, you find it pretty quickly because it just makes sense. Now, this is a completely different level than what I had in my Citroën EC4. I don't think I even have to mention that infotainment because it was just pretty garbage. And I also recently had the chance to try the infotainment in the Volkswagen ID.3. And that infotainment, I have to say, was like the exact opposite of intuitive. A lot of things did not make sense there for me. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to set something up, where to find something. I don't have those issues at all in my Megane E-Tech. So Megane E-Tech uses Android Automotive. This just proves my point. Like I said before, I think that is the best thing to use for infotainment. Somebody else has already come up with how to make it work. Someone else keeps it up. And I've gotten already 5 updates since having this car. I even haven't had it that long, but it just works. It works really well. I love using it. I have no issues. If I'm even looking for something while driving, I don't really have to worry about like trying to, really look at the screen. I'm looking at the road and I can just kind of, by the way, I'll find it if I need. Try not to look for things too much while I drive, but sometimes you have to. So big thumbs up to Megane E-Tech on the infotainment, the Android Automotive. Really love that. Okay, there's one detail that I wanted to go over regarding the infotainment. That is how to set up your Harman Kardon sound. So when I first received the car, I turned on my music. I like to listen to Spotify. That's my favorite way to do it, through Android Auto. And I turned it on and it just was not as awesome as I was expecting. Well, it turns out that my subwoofer was turned off and everything just was not set up the way that I would prefer. So I had to go in and find it, and that I think could be a little improved, but it's not that difficult. Let's just go over here and take a quick look at how to do that. So you see here, I'm in Android Auto Maps at the moment. So here I'm gonna, okay, so let's say I went into the menu. There is no Harman Kardon icon here, but actually the quickest way to do it is just select this little music note. But here you see I still don't have a Harman Kardon icon to select. So what do? Well, I'm going to go over here and select radio and then choose this little mixer icon. And now I am in the Harman Kardon sound system center. So here you can select your atmosphere. I went with lounge. That's the best option for me. You'll obviously choose what suits you. And then here you can turn on your subwoofer, which I did right away. See how you like your bass and all of that kind of stuff. There's some other options here. So yeah, it's pretty quick. If you're in maps here, just select the music icon, go to radio, mixer icon, and here we are, go to town. It also has a really great suspension. Like, riding around in this car is so comfortable, even on 20-inch wheels. And a lot of my friends are actually surprised if I take them for a ride. They're like, wow, like this is a really comfortable ride. And I would have to agree. I'm obviously used to it by now, but it's awesome. Now, regarding consumption, it's obviously winter right now. Typically, if I'm driving around a city in the winter, my consumption averages around 17 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Today, it's super freaking cold. It's like at least minus 10 degrees. It was a little worse earlier. So if you can, you can take a look at my consumption here. Today, I have 22.3 kilowatt hours for 100 kilometers. Now, it is important to note that I did take the highway here, so it's not my usual just city driving, but that's just a little note about that. Okay, but personally, I actually typically don't use the Android Automotive map. I prefer to use Android Auto. I'm also, you know, listening to my Spotify and all of that on there. So if I go to Android Auto, here, now I have a map here, and let's say I'm going to navigate myself. So again, I have the map, of course, on my infotainment screen. But now if I want to switch over and have it on my display in front of me, in this version, it actually only shows me the arrow. It's not going to show me the map. So if you're someone that prefers having the map in front of your face right here, you know, you're going to just have to stick to Android Automotive. I personally always use the Android Auto, and I just have it on the infotainment screen. It's not a big deal for me. It's actually quite natural just to glance over if I need to. So I haven't found that to be an issue at all, but that's just like a small thing to be aware of. A couple other things that work really well in the Megane E-Tech are like the automatic lights, for example. So it can automatically switch between high beams and regular lights at night. If it sees, you know, if you're driving down a dark road, it'll turn your high beams on, but once it senses a car coming, it will turn them back to regular lights, and that works super well. Sometimes it can be a little bit like a techno party if you just have cars coming from the other direction in odd intervals. Then sometimes I've noticed, you know, that it kind of just goes on and off, on and off, on and off. So that's kind of funny, but it works extremely well. I really love that feature, and I use it every time I drive at night, so no complaints there. Another thing that works awesomely are the automatic windshield wipers. I use those as well all the time, just the automatic setting, and it works awesome. And that is something that I set up on my little levers here under my steering wheel. And I have to say, the more that I've driven this car, I really pretty much don't confuse these levers almost ever. Still a couple times where I might pull the wrong one at first, but overall, it's been really good. A few more details about the infotainment. There are driver profiles that you can select. There's a button for them right here on the steering wheel, so you can actually just select them here, and it shows it also on the front display. Now, the one that I use the most often is the Multisense Comfort. You can see it right here in a bigger display, or the Echo. So I'm selecting it on my, and you see it switches over here. So those are the ones that I use the most often. And I have to say, I have not noticed a huge difference in consumption between the Comfort and the Echo. So I think I typically just use the Comfort, but you know, there is that Echo option as well. We have some other options. There is the Sport option. And that one, actually, I have to say, I tested it once and I've never used it since, because to me, it's just too aggressive. The wheels kind of just drift, and it's too much. It's too much for me. But you have that option, you know, if you're kind of more of a daredevil maybe than I am. So there is that option. Come right back over here and take a look here for a little bit longer. We also have this Multisense Personal. I don't know if I ever tried that one out, but you can also configure your own settings. So there are some options here. I've never really found the need to do that, so I don't actually use that. My favorite is the Comfort, maybe the Echo. But yeah, those are some nice options. It's cool that you can switch it from your steering wheel, and you do see it also in your front display, or you can take a look at the infotainment display. So that's pretty cool. Another small thing to be aware of. So this car is actually really good at remembering your preferred settings in between rides. Not all cars are really good at doing that, like the MG4, for example. But the Megane E-Tech is really good. So it remembers pretty much every setting, all of your preferences in between rides, except for one, and that is the adaptive cruise control. Now, this is a feature that I use pretty much every time I ride. So it actually would be pretty cool if it just remembered what I prefer, but alas, you do have to reset it all the time, because let's take a look here. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn on my adaptive cruise control. And as you know, if you ever use this feature, there are different levels to the distances between you and the car in front of you. And the default that it always comes to is the 3. So I personally prefer the second setting. I prefer the second line here. You can even get closer. You can go to 1, or there is a 4 as well, which would be like a super big gap. Again, I prefer the 2, but every time I turn on the car, it is on 3. So if I want to, get a little bit closer, I just have to adjust it. It's not a big deal, but again, it's something I use pretty much every day. I'd prefer if it remembered that between my rides. All right, y'all. So those are some of my impressions having driven the Renault Megane E-Tech just over 4,000 kilometers. As you may have seen, most of them are really good. I really love this car, especially the driving feel. To me, that is like the most important one, because I really feel just confident on the road, feel confident on winding roads, taking sharp turns or whatever it may be. I love it. The car just listens to me, and it is amazing. There are a couple things that I think could be improved a little bit, but mostly they're really details. I don't think any of them are a big deal. And if Renault wanted to improve them, I think it would be quite easy. So that's it for today. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions, if you want me to elaborate on anything, or if you'd like me to address some other things about the car. I'd be more than happy to do it. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, possibly share, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. Again, let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts on this? Or perhaps if you have your own experiences, I would love to hear from you. Thank you all for watching this video, and I will catch you next time.